Hello, I'm Linda Marie Colon, host of Making It Artisan Stories, and this episode is focused on pottery, and I'm here with Deborah Haggett, artisan potter, and we're going to learn all kinds of things in this episode with glaze and clay and designing all kinds of things that are sold on your Etsy account.
Yes.
And I'm going to let you take it away because I know that you've got some experience in your journey that you want to share, beginning with all the other medias that have led you to pursue the artisan potter title now.
It's a lot of fun. I think I always was very creative, as many other people probably are out there as well. And I was never bashful in trying something new or just being determined that I was going to learn how to do it.
You went from sewing to...
Yes, I went from sewing...
crafting and decor.
Sewing, yes. My mother was a sewer, and I had her original Singer sewing machine. So if you can sew a straight line or fairly straight line, it's amazing the things you can make. Mm-hmm. So when we bought our house, it had very non-traditional windows, different sizes. And I just determined that I was going to make my own window treatments. Okay. And it's really kind of an X and Y kind of sew. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy colors. You can see I have quite a variety here. Yes. Color is therapy in many different ways. So it did start that way with tablecloths and window treatments. Mm-hmm. And the holidays would come around. We'd decorate our house with wild signs for Christmas and all that. And just trying to not be afraid to try something new and learn along the way. And that's how I started with this.
Led you to become a potter?
A friend of mine one day decided to go out to Regina Loudis. They have the Abbeys out there in Connecticut, and they have a beautiful little artisan shop in there, and there's wonderful artwork. One of the things that I was really fascinated with was pottery, and it just felt so connected to the earth. It was a black bowl, and it was made with brown clay, and I held it in my hands. I fell in love with it. I bought it. And I brought it home, put it on my counter, and I said to myself, one of these days, I'm going to make one of these. Mm-hmm. And it's had a crack in it. And it was 7 years later before I ever took a pottery class at Wesleyan Potters. It was a gift to me for Christmas. And I showed up, and I started slinging mud. That's kind of what it looked like.
Literally.
Yes. It was a lot different than fabric. So, yeah.
So you had a couple formal lessons?
I did.
And then?
I did.
To get your own kiln?
It was about maybe 5 years or so later.
Okay.
Maybe 6. Anyways, this past year is when I got a kiln, but I do have a part-time job. So don't you know that when I got the kiln, they asked me to come back part-time. So it's a little challenging to run a business and also work part-time. It is for me. But this is a side hustle, and I really enjoy it. And it's nice because I can bring it into my program as well.
I see some tools are out, and I'm not familiar with anything other than watching pottery being made on a kiln and sort of standing back. So I've chaperoned my daughter to Old Sturbridge Village, and that's how I know a little bit about pottery. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about how the clays differ, the glazes, and the difference between an electric and a gas kiln.
Okay,
and
we can talk a little bit about that.
Look forward to seeing out of those various methods.
There's so much to say, and there's so many varieties. So hopefully I can touch a little bit and give you some indication of what's going on here. When I showed up for the class, what they did is they give you pretty much student clay, which is good. It's kind and it's nice to you, and it's easy to use, usually easier to form, and it doesn't have a high crack rate. So they give you a 25-pound block of clay, which is like, a big, it looks like a cinder block. Okay, but
it's soft. It sounds a little overwhelming.
It can be. It can be a little intimidating, but when you're in a class with everybody else is doing the same thing, you're on board. That's how it starts. You lob off a pound of clay, which is probably about the size of my fist, and you put it on a wheel, and you center it. And at first, it's a little challenging to center. Once you get it centered, you drop a hole in it, and next thing you know, you start bringing up the clay.
Okay.
There's a little process and a little learning curve to that, but once you get it, it's like riding a bike. And then you can build bigger forms. It usually starts with a cylinder, then you can alter it. You can do so many different things. These are some of the tools I do have. These are ribs, different types of ribs for different things. This is a wood one. Of course, back when they were really doing pottery, ribs were bona fide ribs. From animals. This is a wooden one, and it's really nice because it really helps to curve out some of the bowls that you can make.
Okay.
It really gets a nice curve on my bowls.
Okay.
This is, you can see there's still a little clay on this. This is my slab. And when you're doing some slabware, which is a little bit different than throwing on a wheel, it's going to be...
Would that be this?
Yes, that's
This is an
slabware
example
right
of some
there.
slabware?
Yep. It smooths it out nice so that you can put, if you want to put stamps on it, you can do that.
So when you say slab, this tool is used to create something like this, which is like a serving tray.
What happens is you'll roll out that slab nice, and the shape pretty much you're going to go with.
Mm-hmm.
And then this right here, you have to compress the clay.
Okay.
All the particles in the clay, you have to make sure they're really compressed, because if they're not, it could lead to a crack.
Okay.
So this is a compression
tool.
for it, and it's nice. You see some of the slabs, some of the ribs bend. Of course, this one does not.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a little stiffer. So they're all kind of different. This is really nice when you're compressing the bottom of your pot or you're bringing it up. But this is not a thrown mug. This is a pinch pot.
Okay.
So I brought this here because you really don't need a wheel to make pottery.
Okay, so this is a work in progress.
This is a work in progress. This has already been bisque fired. So the raw clay was pinched. It started with a ball of clay, and you put your thumb in it, and you just keep pinching around and around, and you'll see that my thumbprints are all over this.
Just literally handmade.
Exactly.
No kiln necessary, right?
Well, after the greenware and it dried, it has to be completely dry. You're going to put it in a kiln to fire to get it to this. You can hear that, to the bisque square, okay, level. So now this guy here is ready to glaze. And I could put it in a gas kiln and go down that road, that type of glaze, or I could put it in an electric kiln. This was fired in an electric kiln. And it just depends on...
So no wheel.
No wheel for this one. Yeah.
Handmade.
Completely handmade.
Literally.
Pinched and handmade. And what's really nice about this is you don't really notice it until it's glazed. There's a lot of interesting little divots in here, and it does some really cool things with texture. On this mug, I sign all my mugs with a starfish.
Okay, so that's what I'm seeing right here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an old earring that's on the back of a dowel, and it just...
That's your signature.
Came from making a difference one starfish at a time.
So I see these great mugs that would look amazing with coffee, tea. And tell me a little bit about this, and then tell me about your philosophy about being present and what the beverage thinking is behind these mugs. Because they're gorgeous. Everyone is different. Everyone is customized. But I think you have different methods of creating those. And then you have a way of sort of just centering yourself. And I really do. I like the philosophy behind it.
One of the things I really noticed that has been the same stream through a lot of the things that I have done creatively is color. Mm-hmm. And I have all my mugs are like on a wall now. My husband made me this beautiful shelf for all the mugs. And it makes a difference, I think, in the morning when you wake up, or whenever you do wake up to start your day, whenever that is, to give yourself a little bit of mindfulness time. Mm-hmm. Whether you have an opportunity to go out, roll out of bed, go run a mile or two, come back and meditate for about 10 or 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. The thing is, you really should be still and organize your day, because it gives you a lot of space between interesting events that can happen throughout your day or your life. Meditating helps you just to be a little more aware. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. If you get into that practice, it just puts a little space in between things that come at you all the time.
Instead of hitting the ground running, literally, and starting your day, you're suggesting pour a little...
Yeah. Tea, coffee, maybe you chill out in the afternoon if the kids are getting a little wild. Put a little wine in here. All the mugs, they feel different in the hand.
They do, and I notice the weight, and I notice the look. And then when I look over here, I see some of these mugs look completely different, almost like a matte finish. So tell me about the differences I'm seeing and how you're creating those.
This on the bottom, this is a white clay. This is the same glaze as this one over here, and that's a brown clay.
Okay. Yeah, this one is definitely weighted much heavier.
Wholly, very different, right? It was interesting because this was out of a kiln I emptied today. These two mugs were part of it. And my daughter came downstairs, and I said to her, which one do you like? And I thought that was pretty ugly. I didn't think I was going to make any more of those. And she went right over to that one. And I had about 30 mugs out.
Mm-hmm.
And she really liked it. And I was very surprised. And like I was telling you about choosing a mug that kind of does something for you
Mm-hmm.
and spending some mindfulness time, it's different for everyone.
Almost
And
like
it's
whatever speaks to you, right?
Exactly.
This is your mug. And a lot of people are like that. I think in the office, I think at home, we all have our mug. So I think it's a great way to personalize it. So tell me how these were created, because they're much different. They're shinier. This one looks like it has some color that you chose to bring in versus a solid piece.
Yeah,
That work.
a lot of these glazes are really kind of interesting. First of all, this whole mug was glazed 3 times with a black glaze.
Oh, wow.
And then every layer you have to wait until it's completely dry because it'll just flake off or peel off.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, 3 glaze was dry. And that could probably be, sometimes people will wait overnight
Mm-hmm.
to let it dry. This, I put a different layer on the top. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the reason why I did this is I'm happy with the effect. Okay, I was kind of hoping it would be something very interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't going to be just simple, but it was also testing glazes. So part of pottery, a huge part of it, is testing. And this is on sandy clay, so this might look very different on white clay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the fun of having it can be fun having your own business. And the different chemicals react differently depending on the heat. So for example, this is the same thing as that glaze, but this is a much more higher shine. And this is the
Oh, you
difference.
can tell. Yes, absolutely.
Right?
This one is much more glossier.
Exactly. And that's a difference of like about 60 degrees in a kiln. And when you're talking about over 2,000 degrees, is that really a big difference?
Mm-hmm.
It can be.
It can be.
So
know your kiln. And I like this. Thank you for shopping local.
Yes.
Because we love supporting local here at Making It Artisan Stories.
Yep.
You're out of Meriden, Connecticut.
I am.
And you're on Instagram.
I am.
Deborah Haggett.
Mm-hmm.
And we can find you on Etsy.
Yes.
And maybe some local festivals or markets throughout the state this summer if you want to pack all this up. And
That's right. It
very
is
fragile.
It is a little heavy, but the Wallingford Public Library is really where I started, and I've only been doing that show every Christmas because they had sponsored that whole Learn How to Do Etsy. So a bunch of us continued to be part of that little collective there at
Mm-hmm.
Wallingford Public Library. So we're there during Christmas, and I guess we're going to have a Mother's Day show coming up too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we're going to do that.
Well, we'll look for that on your Instagram or
Yeah,
Wallingford Public Library. list of
Exactly.
events. That's-
Usually they'll do that and they'll have a little display, a little glass display up front. Sometimes they'll show some of our stuff to let people know what's coming.
Oh, that's great. So just in time for Mother's Day.
Mhm.
And maybe some of these items might be there.
Yes, these will be here. These were fired in my kiln too. This is a lot of fun. This is white clay. And what I like to do, I just don't like to see things when you try to be perfect. I think in clay, I think it's really hard to be perfect in clay. And so that was never something I was really interested in doing. So I'll do a lot of splashing.
Okay.
And this glaze here is actually this glaze.
Okay.
But
And the
it's when
technique
it's
is
layered.
splashing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll do a lot of splashing with my glazes.
Mhm. And so is this one, is it sold as a set?
Nope, they're sold individually.
Okay.
And they just you got,
And I
you
almost
got it.
envision them as a set of 4.
I know. I should make more dishes.
Almost like a salad plate. And there's my dinner plate.
What's happening in my business is that I could go ahead and make 40 or 50 of these, but what people really like is they like to come over to a mug. They like to hold it in their hand, which you should. You should hold it in the hand. How does it feel in your hand? You want a 3-finger? Is it a 2-finger?
Wow.
Is it a 4-finger?
Thought about
There's a
that.
little rest on the thumb here. Here's a
Mhm.
different type of handle.
They
Some
are all
people like to
different.
hold them like this. So sometimes I'll
Yeah,
do
if you're
some
really
different
cold.
swirls. This is a whole different shape. And it's just a matter of,
They're almost all
you
custom
should really
ordered.
try them. The lip is a little different too. People will like,
I like the detail. I see owls inside
yeah.
as well as outside.
Those are glazed decals. Those are really cute and fun to play with.
So decals
Yeah.
can be added.
Decals can be added. I add them on the greenware, which means Greenware is you can make a mug. It could look like it's perfect, but it's fragile because if I took that mug and I put it in a bucket of water, it would go back. So I get to recycle all my mistakes. So it's really nice to know that it really comes a lot of things. Your mistakes can come back and be something really pretty awesome.
So very little waste is created.
Very little waste.
Another green craft.
A very little waste.
Great. Anything else you want to show us? I love the bowl up top.
Some of it's hand building. Like this was hand built. This was a stamp I made out of clay that was bisque fired. I'm a huge perennial gardener, and one of the flowers I have a lot of are dahlias. So I had fun making this Dahlia Stamp, and it's unique to this platter, and I just layered it. And it's kind of a presentation bowl. I mean, you look when you buy your pottery. Okay, it's really nice to stack pottery on the shelf, but sometimes when you buy a bowl, what kind of visual interest does it have? Is it something that you're going to put up like this? Is it something like you'd like on a table, and every time you walk by, you kind of like the way it looks?
That's a great point.
I think there's value to
think about how you're going to display it.
Exactly.
Or use it.
Exactly.
You like it to be used too.
This was in a gas kiln, and this was in a gas kiln. Okay. And what's the difference? The turquoise glaze, this is actually a turquoise glaze. When the chemicals that are used with that turquoise glaze, when they're put in a gas kiln, which of course they use gas, goes through a reduction period, and you never know if you'll see little reds on the edge, you'll see a little more red over there, and the purple comes in, even though it's a turquoise glaze. So that can produce some very unique and interesting results.
Definitely one of a kind.
Oh, I'd say so, yeah.
That's even more valuable. Love it. And you have some items here that you can hang.
I do.
So you create not only items for the shelf, functional items, but decorative items that can be hung.
Yes.
A little hook in the back.
Yes.
This is great.
I'm a director of faith formation, so I bring that into the program. And once in a while, the kids are just, in the beginning, I have a 15-minute session with all the kids and the teachers and some of the parents. And sometimes the kids are over the edge awesome. And every now and then I have one of these in my pocket, and I'll give them one. So, and I actually sometimes, if I'm traveling somewhere, I'll just put a note on a mug and I'll just put it there and say, it's yours.
Not great.
It's free with a little note inside. So,
right.
I know I've got to get better at selling my mugs, which I do on Etsy. I have a pretty good little business there.
Deborah, thank you so much for coming by the studio.
Thank you.
And we'll continue to follow your work on Instagram, and we'll look you up on Etsy. And it's Deborah Haggett.
Thank you. Yes.
Artisan Potter.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Linda Marie Colon, hostess for Making It, Artisan Stories. Thanks for watching, and thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.